Something over the years that has really helped me when I'm starting something new in my life is to find a buddy.
Don't pick somebody who's gonna hold you back and say, we don't really have to do it today. It's raining out today. Pick somebody that's just as motivated as you are. Pick somebody you're in alignment with, and that's your buddy. When people come to me, I'm like, yo, you wanna be an 8? I'm gonna make you an 18. You have to pick that person.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Lynch podcast. I am co-host and producer Nick Skolnick and I'm very happy to have you with us. Today, we'll be talking about why New Year's resolutions usually don't pan out for people. And there are a couple simple techniques that we're going to provide you with today to help you make some positive changes in 2025 and just live the best life you can. Enjoy yourself, be happy, be healthy, and be active as well. Let's get right to it. New Year's resolutions. Not my favorite thing in the world. When I was young, I tried. I was like, it's January 1st. I'm gonna join a gym. I'm gonna get healthy. It's gonna be great. And essentially, I would get 2-3 weeks in, and I would just slowly fade out and do nothing.
Okay.
That's pretty common, I think. A lot of people do not follow through on their New Year's resolutions, and it just made me think that we should probably do a video to help people with some strategies to make positive changes in their life. Now, of course, we all know that does not have to be on January 1st, and likely it won't be.
Doing this as a trainer for 30 years, that's the biggest goal, right? Is to get people in shape, to make people lose weight, but to keep it off, to keep fit. Year after year, month after month, day after day. And the only thing that's gonna change this year, Nick, is the date, right? So as long as people don't change the way they look at things and don't arm themselves with good strategies, it's just gonna be 2026 and they're gonna be in the same spot or worse.
Mm-hmm. Right, because if you're not getting better, if you're not getting healthier, you're probably getting sicker. Unfortunately, that's just how it is.
Nothing stays static, brother. You either get better or worse. Nothing stays still in life.
Like I said, most people don't follow through with their New Year's resolutions. As far as I can tell, it's actually much more popular for younger people, and I would guess that's because they haven't had the failures yet. So young people, I think, are about 50% of them have a New Year's resolution, and by February, most of them have already given up on it. Older people, it's down between 15 and 20% are still going with the New Year's resolutions, likely because when they were younger in their 20s and their 30s, they tried it and it didn't work. Right? So I thought that was interesting. But New Year's resolutions, it's been something people have been doing for a really long time. And some people do like to look at something like a fresh break and they use it as a way to start something new. So none of this is to say that you can't have a New Year's resolution or that you can't start something new in the new year, as long as you have the right strategies.
You know what, Nick? I'll be honest. I always thought like New Year's resolutions was, I'm going to be honest, was for losers, let's say. But I, as you know, have had the worst year of my life. I lost my dog. I lost my dad. I had a couple of health setbacks. So I'm even looking for a fresh start. And I know that the calendar only changes, but I'm hoping my Lynch luck takes a turn for the better.
I think it is.
I'm even looking for a new year.
I think it is. 2025. Lynch luck is turning around in 2025.
I'm even falling victim to the whole New Year's thing as well.
Listen, I think it's nice to turn the page on a year and just say, listen, that was then, this is now, and every day starts fresh. And just because I didn't have a good week last week or a good month last month, that doesn't mean this week or this month are going to be bad.
Absolutely.
Positive outlook goes a long way. And I think the other thing to remember is everybody slips up. Right? So if we're talking about, now of course, not talking just about having a better year, but if you're starting something new, if you're starting some new diet, if you're starting to exercise, if you're doing something different with your diet or exercise, it's not going to be perfect. You're not going to nail it every day. You're not going to have a flawless 365 days. Most people have days where they fall off, but they get back on the horse. And that is really, for me, what makes a winner, is saying, I made a mistake, I fell off yesterday or last week, but I'm getting back on that horse. I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna still work towards this goal that I've set for myself. Because everybody has those problems.
For every one success, I had 100 screw-ups.
You're not gonna live your best life every day. Some days it might take a turn for the worse, and you just got to wake up that next day and keep moving in a positive direction. And I think that's really important for people to remember. No one's perfect, and you got to go easy on yourself. But at the end of the day, you got to keep going. You can't give up on these goals.
All right, brother. So what do we got? What's on the menu for today, Nick?
I just wanted to break down just a couple, like we said before, I want to break down a couple strategies for people, give them some ideas on ways that if they wanted to make a change, they might be able to do a better job at sticking with that change. And then a couple, specific ideas for people if they're looking for, things that they can do in terms of their diet or their exercise, and maybe we can get those from you.
So I think that we should talk about the body goals and the nutrition goals maybe, but talk about some things that could feed our brain and the way we can change the way we look at things as well.
Right, because without a healthy mind, it's very difficult to get that healthy body.
Yeah, because we know in the fitness industry, Nick, I don't want to piss anybody off, but I will. There's some beautiful people, handsome, gorgeous. Maybe there's missing a little bit what my dad used to call G2 up top. So,
G2?
Yeah, G2. I don't know what it meant. He used to say it, bro. Like, you just don't want to be handsome and hot and gorgeous because eventually you will get old and that wave will crash and you have to have something upstairs too. So you don't want to be this empty, gorgeous shell. You know what I'm saying? So let's arm the people with both today.
So I think for me, a good place where I usually start when I'm making a change is trying to think about why I'm making that change. And there can be a lot of reasons. There can be like internal reasons why, if you don't like the way you look in the mirror, or if you just don't feel well, if you're feeling weighed down, right? And other changes can be for other people. Sometimes people want to get healthy so that they can spend more time with their children and be more active, or with their spouse, or with their significant other, or even just their friends. They want to be part of social activities, and in order to do that, they might need a little more energy. So I think people need to really focus in on the reasons why they're making a change, and that could be a good motivating factor for people. Because I do think motivation, it ebbs and flows, right? You wake up on January 1st, you're super motivated to make that change. But on January 12th, when it's cold outside and you're tired because you're back to work every day, it's difficult to sometimes find that little bit of extra motivation to keep that going. And I think having a reason behind the change, having deciding what your motivation is, can sometimes help push you, over that line and keep you moving. Yeah. What do you think about that?
Yeah, motivation is finite, bro. It's finite feeling. Like it will go, like you said, ebbs and flows, and you really have to have goal setting, right? And motivation is good. Like if me and you were walking down the block and a pit bull comes after us, we should be motivated to move our ass, right? But for long, sustainable, actionable steps that yield in results, you have to have that why, And it can just be simple, like, if I don't do this, I'll suck. And that's Mike Lynch's simpleton way of thinking of things. I don't go so deep, right? If I don't do X, I will suck. And I don't like to suck, Nick. I suck at so much shit in my life. I'm good at like a couple of things. Yeah. And that's my family and my career, and that's what drives me. I don't want to suck. So yeah, you're right, man.
For me, it's more family. Yeah. So for me, I want to stay healthy so I can be around for my son for as long as I can, to be active and healthy, to spend time with my wife and the other members of my family. So I think that's a really important motivating factor for me. Less so for my worry that I might suck. It probably has already happened. I probably already suck. There's nothing I can do about it. But if I'm motivated to be a good person for my family, then maybe I suck a little less.
The most successful people in life, Nick, do things for other people, and they end up reaping the reward. Mm-hmm. So your way is the best way. Hey, I'm going to do it for my wife and my son. Mm-hmm. And then Nick, he just wins by default. Well, that's the winning strategy.
Acts of service are always rewarding for the person. Yeah. And it's hard to see that if you don't do anything. If you don't live your life in the service of anyone else, if you're totally focused inward and only doing things for yourself, it can be very hard to realize how much you actually get out of doing things for other people. So another thing I wanted to talk about was how small or large of a goal to set. And a lot of times I think people can set a goal that is just not attainable. Or at the very least, look at too big of a goal at first, right? So I don't know if you want to talk on that a little.
Yeah, so Nick, look, 30 years as a trainer, people come in with very lofty goals, and I love it. The bigger the goal, the better the challenge, right? But I tell clients, whether it's a woman or a man trying to build weight, lose weight, build muscle, whatever it is, lower cholesterol, lower blood pressure, come off medications, do things in 4-week blocks.
Oh, I like that.
Because if you say, hey, I need to lose 80 pounds, 100 pounds, I want to put 30 pounds of muscle on, I got 5 medications I want to come off, you can become very overwhelmed. And again, to your point, motivation, and then you burn out, right? So you want to say, okay, I got 100 pounds to lose. Take that, let's say, a pound or 2 a week, right? And just say how much I'm going to lose in 30 to 31 days. There's 4-week blocks, and then knock that out, and then set it for the next month. And people don't look at it like that. So 4-week blocks, no matter what your goal is, provided you don't have like the doctor saying, hey, you need to make radical changes.
No, but I think that's really good.
4-week blocks,
because if you're
man,
saying, I got to lose 100 pounds, and then after a week, or after a month, you only lost 4 pounds, that feels like you're not making good progress. But if you say, in a month, I want to lose 4 pounds, and then you lose 4 pounds in that month, you're winning.
Yes, and exactly that's where you should be, because it's 1 to 2 pounds, 2 pounds maximum, just for sake of making a point. If you said, hey, Mike, I lost 4 pounds this week, I'm going to say, Nick, put 2 pounds back on. That's too much. You can't lose more than 2 pounds of body fat in 1 week. So now it's either water weight or maybe some connective tissue or some muscle mass. Now you've lowered your hormones, and now you're too overzealous. 3 months down the road, Nitro Nick is feeling wiped out. He's cracking coffee like crazy, he can't sleep, and he burns out. So 4-week blocks, Nick, that's the way to go. 30 years, that's the way that wins.
Now, that's not just for exercise, I would think then too, right? I mean, you can do that with dietary change, with anything, because all of this stuff can happen incrementally. You can make small changes.
Right.
So if you want to make a full diet change, don't go out day one and change everything about the way you eat. Change something small week 1. Make a goal for that month. This month, I'm going to have less of this in my diet and a little more of that. Once a week, I'm going to replace X with Y.
Right. I'm going to stick green vegetables in one of my meals per day. Do it for 4 weeks. And then guess what will happen on month number 2? Probably go into 2 meals. 4-week blocks. Boom. End of story.
It's great. I love it. I think it's called chunking, actually.
Yeah.
I believe that's what it's called, right? Because there is a term for this.
Yes.
And it can be used in all sorts of aspects of your life.
Chunk things down,
Yeah. In the same regard, if people are trying to incorporate exercise into a new routine, whether it's for a New Year's resolution or they start it in a month, how much exercise should people be doing each week? And I guess this is different depending on age or how much weight you're trying to lose, but can you give us some general guidelines for exercise?
Sure, quick. If no one is exercising, or if that person never exercised before, do what you can. 5 minutes is better than no minutes, right? But for everybody watching this, the American Heart Association agrees with me on this one, and I agree with them. A minimum of 150 minutes per week and upward to 300 minutes per week is the end goal. Now, if your workouts are intense and vigorous, you can get more to that 150.
So you're talking about 2.5 hours a week of exercise, is that 150 mark, right? So that's 2.5 hours.
If it's intense, this is the home base goal, right? If somebody never worked out before in their life, or they haven't worked out in years, 5 minutes a day, then 10 minutes, and then build on that.
And use that chunking and build yourself up.
But the place where they want to end, where you should be and I should be, is a minimum of 150 and upward to 300 minutes in a 7-day cycle. And how you can break that up, Nick. It could be
half hour
20
here,
minutes in the morning,
there.
20 minutes at night. It doesn't have to be all at once. But that is, the goal should be anything, right? That's for people that have lost their way. Something is better than nothing, okay? Take your dog for a walk, whatever it is. But the goal is 150 to 300 minutes, and then you find your sweet spot.
You know, another thing that I wanted to mention, and something over the years that has really helped me when I'm starting something new in my life, is to find a buddy. A lot of times a buddy will help keep you motivated, because on the day you don't feel like waking up to go for that run, or on the day you don't feel like going out for your nightly walk, they're probably going to be into it that day. And they'll call you up and they'll hold you accountable for wanting to back out. And on the day they don't want to do it, you follow up and do the same thing. You hold them accountable. And so by working at it together, you can kind of build on that motivation, and you're being held accountable to someone else, not just yourself. And a lot of times that can push you over the top and to get you to a place where, you know, like we talked about before, motivation, being motivated by other people, by friends and family. This is a way, having that buddy is a way to have a friend be part of the motivation to keep you in line and to keep you accountable for what you've said that you wanted to do.
Sure. I mean, look, that's what I am, right? As a trainer, I'm a buddy that my clients come to. And if you have that luxury, have at it.
Yeah.
Two things to that. One, pick a buddy that's in the same place as you.
Right. Don't find an Iron Man who's training for the next competition if you haven't done exercise in 10 years.
Or what's the opposing person to that?
I don't know.
Dead piece of wood, right? Don't pick somebody who's going to hold you back and say, we don't really have to do it today. It's raining out today. Right? Pick somebody that's just as motivated as you, or so sick and tired of the way they look and feel, or have this, maybe had a stroke and you had a stroke, whatever it is. Pick somebody you're in alignment with, and that's your buddy. That's your partner, right? When people come to me, I'm like, yo, you want to be an 8? I'm going to make you an 18. You have to pick that person. And some people, Nick, they just don't have a circle. And we come in this world by ourselves, right? And we leave on our own. So if you don't have that circle, you need to be that fucking circle, brother. And if you have health challenges, or you're just sick of being sick, there is no circle. It's you against you, and that's the way it is.
Yeah, unfortunately, not everybody will be able to find that buddy. Yeah. If you have the luxury to find the buddy, use the buddy.
The right buddy. Yep.
But at the end of the day, if there's no one there, you still can't give up. Right. You still got to go for it.
Right.
Now, I know we've talked a lot about hydration and water, so I don't want to get too deep into this, but is there a rule of thumb generally how much water people should be drinking a day, especially if they're starting exercise routines and all these things?
Yes, there is. So the general rule of thumb is at least half of your ideal body weight, right? So if you're 300 pounds and your ideal body weight is 150, half of that as a minimum. Now that's total water volume, Nick. 20% of that can come from food. So when you cook oatmeal or rice or fruits and vegetables, that has about 20% of your water intake is going to come from food in itself, and people don't realize that. The coffee that you're drinking right now has fluids, and people will say, yes, coffee is a diuretic. Yes, it is, but there's still water in there. If that's a 10-ounce coffee, maybe you lose an ounce in urination. So you have to equate for your coffee or your tea or anything like that. But generally, half of the body weight in ounces, up to a whole ounce per pound if somebody's on a high protein diet or they're very active and exercising in hot and humid weather. But this is a very important thing for people, as we talked about in other videos. Sometimes when somebody wants to lose weight, if they're dehydrated, this can be a cue of hunger when really they're just dehydrated. So about half the pounds, half the body weight in ounces, and up to 1 ounce per pound of ideal body weight.
So if you're 200 pounds, you should be having 100 ounces of water that day?
Up to 200.
Up to 200, but somewhere in that range.
Provided that's your ideal body weight. If somebody has 50 pounds to lose, they don't have to be hydrating for adiposity or body fat.
Okay. So figure out what your ideal body weight is, cut that in half, that in ounces is the amount of water you should be aiming for that day.
Correct. And if they need 100 ounces, Nick, they only really need to actively seek drinking 80 ounces, because about 20 ounces is going to come from food.
Okay.
Provided they're not just banging Doritos that are dried out and have no water content.
Right.
Yeah, but that's really a way for them to feel full, satisfied, and filled with energy, rather, so they can actually pursue all their New Year's goals.
Now, what about people starting their day? We know how much water we should be drinking. That first meal of the day, right? People are getting into it. They need to start right. A cheese Danish, probably not the best thing for you to have in the morning.
Right.
What's a good rule of thumb for like a healthy breakfast? How much protein should be in there? What should we be putting in that breakfast to give us energy to get that day moving?
Right. Provided everybody's listening to us, Nick, and they know the importance of exercising and their strength training and breaking down muscle tissue to rebuild muscle tissue, I think that it's a good idea to shoot for 30 grams, upward to 60 grams of protein in breakfast.
Hold on, I'm getting full just thinking about it. That's a lot of protein. Because just so people know, how much protein is in like one hard-boiled egg?
7 grams of protein for one large hard-boiled egg.
Okay, so I'm not going to eat like 13 eggs every morning for breakfast.
No.
But what's realistic in that regard?
Most people are going to do well with 30 to 40 grams, especially if they're over the age of 30 or older, because as we get older, we become resistant, or we need more protein. This will be in our protein video eventually, but you need a certain amount of amino acids to turn on muscle growth, and you need an amino acid called leucine, and you need about 30 to 40 grams for that protein synthesis to turn on, especially as you get older.
Okay.
Our boys, they're young, so they might need a little less, but anybody over the age of 30 that's exercising or doing construction or anything like that, a scoop and a half of protein powder, 4 grams of cooked animal protein, a cup and a half of beans or lentils, a bunch of eggs, 4 eggs.
And now, is this for people who want to put on muscle mass?
No, this is for anybody that wants to preserve muscle mass and or build muscle mass.
And have energy for the
Yeah, because really, real quick, and we'll get into this in a deeper dive in protein, but we don't hold or store amino acids. So I know fasting had become very, very popular, and fasting has its place, but for people that are at an ideal body weight or training really crazy or trying to build muscle or trying to burn body fat, we don't store amino acids. So when we wake up in the morning, we're theoretically in what's called a catabolic state. And if we don't give the body amino acids, it will go to the next place. If we don't give it through the mouth, it will go into the amino acids and start to catabolize your own muscle tissue to get those amino acids. Bad news. Now, there'll be people that will leave comments, maybe the intermittent fasting folk, and I would argue that if they're at a lean body weight, that if they would start to implement protein for breakfast, that they would actually leave a comment in a few months from now saying, shit, I was wrong. I feel much better. My blood sugar is more stable. My energy is higher. My sex hormones are up, and I'm recovering better from workouts.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. And of course, at some point, we'll dive deeper into intermittent fasting, because there is a place for that for people who are looking to lose body fat.
Right, because people wake up and they're like, oh, I'm not ready for breakfast in the morning. Yeah, that's because there's a hormone that gets you up in the morning called cortisol, and cortisol suppresses hunger. But you're catabolizing your own muscle tissue. And then what happens for people that don't eat breakfast, a lot of times they're stacking their calories late at night. And then guess what happens to all the New Year's resolutions? Bam! Broken.
The last thing I want to say about all this is it can really be helpful for some people to write things down. And I don't want to say have a journal. I don't want to give it any specific name because people can get an aversion to that. But just make notes. Make a list. It's an easier way to keep track of what you've done, what you're doing, and where you're going by just having a little area that you're writing down. I had this much water today. I had this many grams of protein at breakfast today. I exercised for this much last week. Oh, how does last week measure up to this week? How does last month measure up to this month? Am I making progress? It's not for everybody, but for some people, making those notes is just another way to remind yourself that you should be making these changes in your life.
Yeah, I think writing things down, especially as you get older, Nick, I'm a sticky note guy, because I forget things. Yeah. So sometimes even, doing this for as long as I have, I still tweak my diet. And, if I see a blood marker maybe not going where I wanted to, I'll make changes in my diet. And sometimes I make a change like 3-4 weeks ago, and I don't write it down, and I forget because I'm going to be 52 years old. So sometimes it's just jotting down, how do I feel? These are the changes I make. And 3 weeks later, compare notes and say, did it work, not?
Yeah.
Because you'll forget.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Especially, you have...
You could do it in your calendar app on your
Yes,
phone. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to have a whole journal set aside.
Yes.
I mean, make it simple, make it easy for yourself.
Yeah. Just make sure that you write it legibly, because when you go back to refer 3 weeks later, like I write it fast, I'm like, wait, what does that say?
Well, that's why typing it into your phone works really well, right? And
old school, bro.
listen, in that same regard, you can set reminders in your phone. You can have a reminder go off every day in your calendar that says you should be exercising today. You should be moving today.
Right.
Remember to do your squats. Remember to do this. Remember to do that. Or like, don't do this.
Absolutely.
That pops up. You can set it to do, your calendar can set reminders for yourself constantly. Now, it might be annoying to some people, but other people might want that reminder. So look into it. The calendar app is a good reminder app. So there's not just physical things to do that can be a good change for people. I think mental goals can be really important as well. And when I say that, I mean trying to focus the mind to be more positive for yourself and to let go of a lot of the negative crap that people are holding on to. I think if people can work on creating a better mental outlook, in their life, that they might have an easier time making physical changes as well. So maybe we can give people a couple goals or tactics to help reframe their mindset in the new year?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I've been doing this for 30 years, and when you get a younger client, they, for the most part, they haven't had the challenges health-wise. They're really focused on the vanity. And as you get older, I always say getting old sucks, but it's better than the alternative, right? So we both know people that have died way before their time. So as you get older, Nick, you do realize the importance of this. And you could be, again, we talked about this before, you could be the most handsome man or the most beautiful woman, and if you don't have mental peace, it all doesn't matter, right? So taking the body and putting it with the mind without sounding extremely corny is super, super beneficial. And as I get older, I really am more in love with this than the body aspect of it. So I think it's, if not as important, maybe even a tiny bit more important for the older folk that are watching this. Like me. You're not 50 yet, but when you turn 50, Nick, you will be an older folk like me, brother.
I'm young. I'm only 46.
Bastard!
So starting off, grudges.
Yeah, man.
We got to let them go.
Yeah.
It's not helping you.
No. I won't throw anybody under the bus, but some people in my family are heavyweight grudge holders, and I learned that. And some things are just, you can't give excuses or you can't get over them. So for the light things in life, just move past it, man. Agree to disagree, hash it out and move on. Don't get pissed off at the little things, because most things are little.
Most things are little. If someone didn't stab your grandma, you can probably move on past it, right? I mean, maybe if they stabbed your grandma, you might want to hold that grudge for a little while. But otherwise, it's their problem.
Yeah.
Let them deal with it.
Yep.
Wake up every day being mad about something. It's just turning you into a miserable person.
Yes. And if you can't get over it, then you need to either just evict these people out of your life.
Remove the toxic people.
Yes. And if you can't do that, because sometimes you can't do that, you might be related to them,
It's your boss.
you may work with them, just you got to learn how to manage it. And if they're not paying rent up here, brother, you gotta
get them out.
And once you learn how to master that skill, and Nick, it is a skill. It's something I really struggle with, but I really have gotten good at it. And let me tell you something, does it free things up for you? it makes you so much more peaceful.
Right.
You just say, hey, this person's a total asshole, they're a piece of shit. And by the way, Nick, if someone's a piece of shit, if they're doing you dirty, if they're stealing, if they're robbing, they're trying to cheat you, they're not happy people to begin with. Don't let them occupy your life, because they're just miserable and they're sucking you into their vacuum, man.
And a good way to deal with this, a good way to try to battle this, is by practicing that moment of gratitude.
Yep.
That morning or that evening moment where you can reflect, instead of reflecting on what you don't like about your life or all the bad people or things that might be swirling around you at that moment, reflect on some of the good things in your life. There's something.
Yeah.
Whether it's your health or your family or your job or your pet or a hobby you have, there's something in your life that you can feel grateful or thankful for.
Yeah. I know before the show we talked about like the tips we were going to give, but that's my thing, dude. 5 minutes in the morning before I get out of bed, and 5 minutes generally as me and my wife are BSing when the lights are off at nighttime and the blinds are down. When we say goodnight, I do about 4 or 5 minutes of the things I'm thankful. In the beginning of the day, I bookend it. And it sounds corny, but it really does help, man. And sometimes I'm thankful for the strong mind that I have acquired over the years to combat those toxic people, because I can't remove them all. And that was a skill I didn't learn until a few years ago. When I'm 47, 48, right around where you are now, Nick. Bastard.
Back when you were young.
I call you bastard a lot of times. Can you get older already?
Well, you said something there. You're bookending your day in the beginning, at the end of your day. I think it also plays into something I wanted to mention, which is sleep schedule. I think working on your sleep schedule, for me, going to sleep at a consistent time and waking up at a consistent time has really helped me in my overall mental health. It means that I'm paying attention to how much sleep I'm getting each night, and everybody's going to be different. Some people need 5-6 hours and they feel fine. Some people need 8 hours to feel fine. So each of us should figure out how much sleep is our body asking for to make us feel good when we wake up, and then really try with intention to get to sleep at that consistent time and wake up at that consistent time. And you can play with these things. You can move it around. You can wake up a half hour earlier and try to get some exercise in, or go to sleep a half hour later and read a book or something like that. But try to work that in a little bit and keep some consistency with that sleep schedule. And I think people will find that they reap a lot of benefits from that.
Yeah, and a lot of times people will stay up late at night with the devices and everything, and sometimes there's a value, Nick, just to, even if you don't fall asleep, go in and just lay there and think, plan, talk about to yourself about these goals that you have set. Even if you don't fall asleep for an hour, eventually your body will take the sleep that it needs. And sometimes you're just in bad habit patterns. So I agree 100% with you.
You're saying something there that I also wanted to mention, and I've said it before, but people should really be trying to decrease their amount of time on social media and just device time in general. I find that when I put my phone down early and my wife and I are just getting ready, laying in bed or getting ready for the end of the day, it's a much more pleasant experience that last hour of the day when we just talk or listen to music or really just pretend it's 1985. Like there's no phones in the room, there's no device to look for movies. You're just existing, you're talking. And like you said, sometimes it's just quiet time, and that's a time where your brain starts going through what happened that day or problems you might have or things you're thinking about, and sometimes a new idea just pops into your head. But when a new idea never pops into your head? When you fill every single second with an app.
I couldn't agree more. As you were saying that, I was going to say, Nick, like when we grew up, but you said I think you said 1985.
Yeah.
It's crazy you said that.
I mean, it could be 1990. It could be really any time before 1998.
Up, bro. How many times did you lay in your bed when you were younger? Like, just your head just went in a million different directions because there was no devices.
It's
and
very
stuff
important
like that.
to give your brain time to just do its thing. right? If you're constantly filling up every minute of the day, you're not giving yourself any time to process what's going on in your life. You're just filling it up with other people's bullshit and all that social media influence, which again, there's a place for all of that, and you can find interesting things on social media, and there's recipes, and there's good stories, and there's a lot of negative content too. But however, whatever you're doing in your life, you don't want to fill all of that time with your phone or your TV, or, get that noise out for a little while, quiet everything down, and just sit there with your thoughts, or with your significant other, or with a friend, and just be present in that moment.
So you mentioned getting off social media, Nick, and one of the things I started doing a couple of years ago, and I think, there's no hard numbers here, but I say 6 a year, books. Whether you're listening to them or reading them, get a goal of 6 books per year. If you go over that, so be it. And I started doing this about 3 years ago. Sebastian, my son, started buying me Audible. And let me tell you something. I haven't found that book yet, Nick, because, a lot of times I like to watch interviews of successful people, and they'll say, what was a book that changed your life? I haven't found that book yet, but with every book, there was 1 or 2 where I was like, that was a waste. But with every book that I've listened to, I've really got one or many gems from. So whether you're listening to it while you're doing your cardio or driving to work, or actually reading it to try to fall asleep at night, I think a goal for people is to try to educate themselves, and you can never learn enough. So 6 books a year. And if you could do 12, so be it. But I'm at 6 a year.
Yeah, it's funny, when I first became a dad, I just stopped doing a lot of the things I used to do before when I was a newlywed or single, because we were just so busy, right? You have a new kid, and there's just everything changes in your life. And when my son got a little older and he started reading, I realized that I was telling him to go read a book, and then I was going to my phone. And so I wanted to try to live by example. And so I started reading a lot more because I wanted to see that in him. And so again, this comes back to me kind of being motivated by other people, I think, a little bit. But I've reconnected with reading in a way that I hadn't in a few years, because I wanted to make sure that not only am I telling my son, go read for a half hour or read a book or whatever, but he also sees me doing it. And he'll come up and ask me, what are you reading? What's that all about? And I think it's important to do that if you have children or just anyone else around you in your life, to set that example. But again, like you said, it can be really important for yourself, because you're going to learn stuff. Now, not every book, I think, is going to be, transformational in that regard. Sometimes you just want to read fluff. You just want to read a fun story. You just want to read, I like science fiction. And so not every science fiction story I read changes my life, but it can be thought-provoking, and it can just be fun. It's like a fun movie.
Yeah.
So, I think that's important.
I've never done that. I either do nutrition, heart disease, training, or, psychology. I haven't done the fun stuff yet, being totally transparent.
It can be great. It can be motivating to read books like you're talking about, but there are a lot of really good fiction books out there. And you just have to find the right author or the right style, and it can really be something that enhances your life.
Yeah. It's real quick, I'm getting to that stage in my life where, and my son, Sebastian, and Michael too, I have 2 boys, and one is 15 and a half, and one's coming on 22. And they're getting to that point in their manhood where they're starting to ask me a lot of questions about my childhood. And Dad, how did you do this? And whatever. And again, it's part of getting older. I'm starting to really feel the value of being an educator for the first time in my life, and feeding my brain. I mean, I've always been immersed in training and nutrition, but now wisdom has been something that I really, in the last couple of years, I'm like, who am I? And it's really feeding my brain has become super important on top of fitness and nutrition. So I think it's something that could just only make people better.
Yeah. I don't have a lot more left. I just have one more thing. I wanted to mention that each year I try to make one major change in my life, at least attempt it. And whether that's, starting a new workout routine like we mentioned before, or starting to read again after a few years off where you haven't done it. Think about 2025 and ask yourself, what can I do this year so that when I look back at the year, I feel like I tried something new. I did something, either I reconnected with a past passion or I found something that I didn't realize I would like. Try surfing, go skiing, do some physical activity you've never tried before. Everyone loves pickleball. Get out there and play pickleball.
Yep.
Do something. And if you don't like it, fine, who cares? Doesn't matter. You tried it. Even if you're self-conscious about your teeth, go get Invisalign. If you're self-conscious about your waistline, cut out processed carbohydrates. There's something that you can do in 2025 that could be a lot of fun and could be really transformational. And really try to make at least one thing every year that you change about yourself or that you tweak about yourself that could be give you some, can be a positive influence in your life.
Absolutely. And, I don't know if you remember this, Nick, but me and you have kind of toyed around with the idea of doing something together. You've edited videos for me back when I first started my career, but we toyed about, I remember I was sitting in the parking lot of a ShopRite, and we talked about 15 years ago about maybe doing something, and you're busy and I'm busy, and here we are in
2024.
Yeah,
that was our year to start a podcast.
And we had been talking about it and toying around with it for 15 years, and now here we are, and I'm having a fucking blast.
And I'll tell you one thing, we should have started sooner.
We should have.
Right? And so all these things you always talk about.
I was chasing you, Nick, and you just kept on saying, Mike, not right now, but, I finally got you, Nick. I finally got Nitro Nick.
I had to chase my wife for 20 years before she agreed to marry me, so you just got to be persistent in life and you get what you want.
I finally got Nitro Nick.
No, but it's true. A lot of times you end up starting something and you realize, man, I should have started this 5 years ago. Man, I should have done this X amount of years ago.
And we should have, and we started, and look, listen to this. If we would have started when we talked about it, right? Think about where we would have been now, right? Before this whole podcasting thing started, and however it would have been back then when we talked about it.
Who knows how it would have played out,
we would have been, So, but here we are.
And that goes for nutrition, that goes for exercise, right? If you keep pushing it off, it's never going to happen.
Right.
But if you start this year, start that podcast, start working out, start playing pickleball, you never know where it's going to land.
And here's what we could have done. We could have said, it's too late in life, but here we are, right? So it's never too late, Nick.
No, it's
never
true.
Too late.
It's true, especially for creative ventures.
Yep.
I think that's really important. Yeah. I feel like that's a good place to wrap it up. Did you want to leave people with any other thoughts?
I would, Nick. I'd like to do one last thing. As you know, Nick, and anybody watching this has been the worst year of my life. I'm going to be 52 in 2 months from now. And I lost my dog, which was like a son to me. I lost my dad, and that happened in 2 days. I was talking to my dad about a Marine Corps blanket that he wanted me to order. And 2 days later, I saw him on life support, and he died within 24 hours. I've had some health setbacks. We've done some videos on that, and I came close to death. And I've always known this, Nick. I've never lived my life. My dad always used to say, God rest his soul. He always say, Mike, live your life like today's your last day, because one day you're going to be right. And as you get older, these people that are in your life, you lose them. And I've had 2 times myself where I came very close to dying. And I made a conscious effort to really be more, because I'm a grinder, Nick. I work. I'm very goal-driven, and a lot of my life has passed me by because a lot of it was fear. I wanted to make money. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to be the best trainer. I wanted to be the best at everything I could. And a lot of the people in my life that were really important to me suffered. And losing my dad and my dog actually dying in my arms really taught me how fragile, because I woke up one day and my dog was on the cusp, but he woke up one day and it just came unglued in about 3 hours, and I had to make that decision. And now I'm really, no matter how tired I am, Nick, no matter how I want to just have some time by myself, I make the call to my mom, who's still alive, who I've always had a great relationship with. Now our relationship has gone to another degree that I never even thought it could. And I'm more attentive to my wife. And I love my wife dearly. And I just really, when you edit a video, I'm more mindful to say, Nick, fucking great job. Where in the beginning I'll be like, good job, Nick. You know what I mean? So for anybody, just there are no guarantees. You know, the show will end for us all. And being successful, being lean, building muscle, making a lot of money, all that shit's nothing if you don't have a great relationship and nurture the people that are the most important. Because if you're lucky, Nick, you can count on two hands on the people that really will have your back in life. Mm-hmm. And time goes quick, brother. And sometimes you don't have a second chance. So don't assume that those people will be around forever. And when you're tired, when the day is long, just fucking get on the phone. Hug somebody, tell them, you know, and my dad always said, again, God rest his soul, it's nice to be nice, and you can't be too nice, Nick. And you can't love the people that you love enough.
It's a good message to go out on.
That's my best tip in 2025. Love hard, man.
Love hard.
Love hard.
2025. All right, well, call somebody up that you love and tell them you love them. Tell them how important they are to you, and maybe they'll do the same. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I hope you learned a lot. I know I did, and have a great new year.
And good luck on all your goals, and stick to them this year, right, Nick?
Yeah, and we're thankful for all of you. For all the things we're thankful for, yeah. I'm thankful for all the people who have started watching our podcast, and 2025 is going to be a big year.
It's going to be huge, bro.
All right, man.
Nitro Nick coming at you.
Bye-bye.
I'm Mike Lynch. See you later.
Thanks, everybody.
Please like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification so you don't miss any videos in the future.